Hey guys, Zane here with another One Take review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Ari Lennox album, Age, Sex, Location. Most probably titled after what most people on Omegle ask you first thing instead of just saying hi like a normal human being, Age, Sex, Location is the latest studio album from R&B and soul singer Ari Lennox. With one full-length album under her belt, that of course being her first debut album, Shea Butter Baby, being a very strong outing overall and one that stood out in the general pop R&B realm that is very major within the general stylings of soul and R&B music, there was definitely some level of expectation behind Lennox's follow-up to Shea Butter Baby, and in fact, instead of just a solid, equal follow-up, we actually have something that's significantly better. Don't get me wrong, I was expecting Age, Sex, Location to be a great album from the get-go. Not even just a good album, but I was expecting it to be a great album and actually would have been disappointed if it were just good. But it's better than just a great album, it's actually kind of a fantastic record and listening experience overall, even if it does play into some cliches of the genre it belongs to. Ari Lennox is a great vocalist overall, as she's really able to convey the sensuality required for tracks like Leak It, as well as the sass and attitude of cuts like Waste My Time. That can be difficult for some musicians to be sure, as they feel forced in one direction or the other, or if you're a really terrible musician, forced in both directions, but Lennox never really does. It just feels like she's showing two honest sides of her own personality through her music. As far as pop stars go, at least, Lennox is actually a very versatile performer overall, and she manages to nail every single note that needs to be hit on Age, Sex, Location for it to succeed in its several different attempts at sensuality, attitude, even light bits of humor here or there, and all of it works out because of the fact that Ari Lennox is a genuinely talented performer and personality. The instrumentals on Age, Sex, Location are surprisingly engaging as well, with some of my personal favorites here being a sort of aquatic kind of funk that can definitely be accredited to the production choices made here. The smoother instrumentals that are required for the more smooth soul and at times neo-soul based tracks on Age, Sex, Location are equally as successful in working towards Ari Lennox as an advantage, just because of the fact that they promote her vocals and they generally just put her at the forefront, but nonetheless the instrumentals still manage to stand out on their own. They are still noticeably sweet and generally an acceptable level of sappy. In a way, this record is a big tribute slash love letter to 2000s R&B and soul, largely thanks to the production style that heavily dates back to artists like Aaliyah and early Alicia Keys. However, very similar to Raven Lenné's Hypnos from earlier on in this year, another great R&B record that I do highly recommend if you enjoy Age, Sex, Location, there are enough modernized flourishes in the delivery, in the performance work, in the lyricism, in the overall tone of the record, and the way it goes about presenting itself, that Age, Sex, Location does genuinely feel like a modern tribute to older sounds rather than just a direct knockoff. Trust me, Ari Lennox doesn't sound like a tribute act in any way, or someone like just going right back to the source of the music that they enjoy and taking ideas and motifs from that and claiming that it's their own. She really is a genuinely original performer that just so happens to have very apparent influences, and while that does sound very similar, there is a legitimate difference between the two. In a way, it's kind of similar to the Led Zeppelin Greta Van Fleet argument, because Led Zeppelin, sure, they took a lot of ideas from the blues and from early rock music, but they morphed all those ideas in their own way that felt unique, and even in retrospect, it still hits harder than it otherwise would, just because they had their own creative side that they managed to morph into their own. Meanwhile, Greta Van Fleet specifically look back to artists like early Rush and Led Zeppelin to just take those ideas and pass them off as their own, and while that's not a bad thing, it does make for something that feels significantly weaker in comparison. Ari Lennox is the Led Zeppelin of this situation. She really does take a lot of ideas from past sounds of the genre that most fans of the genre will be familiar with. If you are a person who is active within the world of R&B or soul music, you'll probably recognize a few of the sounds, if not most of the sounds, that are presented on this record, as sonically it is aesthetically a major love letter, as I said before, to early 2000s and late 90s R&B, alternative R&B, neo-soul, call it whatever you want. It's a big tribute to that kind of sound and style. But again, there is a modernized touch about this record that allows Age, Sex, Location to be not only a fantastic follow-up to Ari Lennox's debut album, but also something that is uniquely its own in the current realm of soul, despite its influences. So overall, age, sex, location manages to surpass my own expectations, which were already quite high if I'm being totally honest, and make for the best work of Ari Lennox's career thus far, which is kind of saying something considering she has done a fair amount of work overall and seemingly is only getting better as time goes on. I'm going to give this record 4.5 stars out of 5. My one take on this album is that Age, Sex, Location is an impressive album that already proves to be one of Ari Lennox's. My one take on this record is that Age, Sex, Location is an impressive outing from Ari Lennox that already proves to be one of Soul's best in 2022 so far. So again, 4.5 stars out of 5, and with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.